Okay, welcome back. Here with Rashad Miller, talking a little bit of Jeskai.
Ooh, Jeskai.
Jeskai. So, formerly called, I guess, Red, White, Blue, American Colors, Patriot Colors, whatever, but finally we have a name. It is Jeskai, and we'll start off with Narset's Enlightened Master. Now, this is a cool one. This is our human monk. It costs Red, White, Blue, and 3. It's got First Strike, Hexproof, and is a 3/2. But what's really cool about it is whenever she attacks, you exile the top 4 cards of your library, and until the end of turn, you may cast non-creature cards exiled this way without paying their mana costs. So how often, I guess from a limited standpoint, how often are you going to be ballsy enough to swing this into a bunch of creatures that are bigger than it just for the off chance you get a better spell?
This Narset really needs to, hit the gym and get some toughness or something. Because this, even though it has First Strike and Hexproof, it's just super fragile. I feel like the reason that you're playing this card is because you want that ability, because everything else that you're getting is not that good. Hexproof is fine. And maybe it's possible that you have some type of auras that you're putting on your on this card that then you're able to take full advantage of it, having hexproof and maybe even First Strike. But I don't know. If I had this, I wouldn't want to attack into a board with anything, because we're talking 6 mana, so it's got to be like turn 7, turn 8. Like, everything's gonna beat it, unless you're just hoping to get a removal spell or some type of combat trick that will just save her in combat. Other than that, you're kissing her bye-bye. This is I'm not impressed. I don't even know if this is going to be that good and constructed. Maybe if it's the only creature in a very heavy instant and sorcery laden deck, but even then I want to do something better with my 6 mana other than play a 3/2 and have to wait a turn just to get a couple of free spells. Exactly.
And the fact that you're playing them without paying the mana cost is sort of relevant once you've already got 6 mana on the battlefield anyway.
Well, that's I would rather obviously not have to pay mana for those spells, because then if you do hit the jackpot and flip up 4 spells, you can cast them all. And, obviously that's the dream, and I would love for that to happen, but I don't even think I'd play it if I knew that would happen every single time.
Okay, let's move on from Narset. Maybe Jeskai has some other cool stuff in store for us. So, Flying Crane Technique. It costs the exact same thing as our previous card, but it's instant. And it's got untap all creatures you control. They gain flying and double strike until end of turn. Now, that's the kind of card you want to flip over with Narset.
Yeah, okay, that's something. Obviously, that if you flip that up, you get to untap and it gets flying and First Strike, so it's going to get through. But in all of the decks that aren't going to have both of these cards, so we're going to just talk a little bit of reality.
If you're not going to flip your rare over with your mythic rare in draft, this is still a pretty solid card.
No, I like this card. It's like kind of an overrun-esque effect where usually if you're in Jeskai, we haven't touched on it yet, but their keyword ability is prowess. So this would in fact also pump some number of those creatures by 1 attack, by 1 power and 1 toughness. Double strike is pretty sweet, so they're probably going to have at least 2 or 3 power, so you're going to be doing maybe 6 damage per creature. They all have flying, so they're not going to be blocked very well. And they untap, so the ones that survive after combat are still left back to block. So, this can swing a race in your favor pretty well.
Yeah, this card has win the game written all over it for sure. So let's talk about the Jeskai Ascendancy. This is, of course, one of the enchantments in their 3 mana cycle. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creatures you control get +1/+1 into the end of turn, untap those creatures. So kind of prowess with an upside with untapping. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card.
Now, The awesome thing about this is it untaps all of your creatures. So you not only are you pumping all your creatures by one, but they're untapping. So they're getting pseudo vigilance. It allows you to. I mean, it's not very tricky because it's an enchantment that's sitting on the board, but it allows you to attack with your guys, threaten that they're going to get bigger, and be able to. I mean, that's going to discourage your opponent from blocking, and then if they let them through, they're also discouraged from attacking anyway because all your creatures may untap, get bigger anyway, and be able to play defense again. Not only that, but every time you do something like that, you get to draw a card and discard a card. So you get to get card selection out of this after you just blew them out with a combat trick.
Exactly. So the combination of these three spells so far is leading me to believe that Jeskai is sort of you've got that one big play, that one big turn that you're going to do, and you're just going to wreck face for one turn, and then hopefully be able to maintain a tempo afterwards if you don't win it immediately. Speaking of cards that will give you ridiculous tempo, Mantis Writer is our 3/3 for 3, but it's got Flying, Vigilance, and Haste. Now, a lot of people have been talking about how good this card is, and I think that is really just dependent on the mana base and Standard.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically like a little Lightning Angel. If you remember Lightning Angel, it was Flying, Vigilance, Haste, but it was a 3/4 for one more colorless mana. So you drop the colorless, you lose a point of toughness, and Lightning Angel was very good. Obviously, that was in a format where having 4 toughness was very important. 3 toughness, probably not enough for it to be a stellar card, and not sure how good mana is going to be in Standard to be able to reliably get 3 different colors of mana on turn 3, especially with none of them being green. So this just has to be a natural 3 colors using basic land and fetch land and probably scry lands or some other source of pain lands and things like that. But if you get this guy on turn 3, you're ahead in the tempo race. Flying, Vigilance, and Haste, those are great abilities on a 3/3.
Exactly. So in this limited format specifically, it's going to hopefully, if you're lucky, come down on turn 3 and then be immediately able to block those morph creatures for at least another 2 turns. So that's pretty sweet. Sage of the Inward Eye is our 3/4 for 5 mana. It's got Flying, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn. Now, to me, I've seen uncommons in the set that I'm more excited about than this rare, but maybe it's something I'm missing here.
Well, I mean, a 3/4 flyer for 5, that's not a bad rate. So, I mean, I'm fine with having a 3/4 flyer for 5. Usually a 3/4 is going to cost you, I guess it would cost 6 because 5, like you get a 3/3 flyer for 5 usually. The fact that you can give your creatures lifelink can swing a race in your favor, and it seems like Jeskai is the tempo-oriented clan, so a thing like this would go perfect in a Jeskai deck where you're racing, you're bouncing this thing here and there to get more damage through and slow your opponent down. And this is just another way to put pressure on and have the creatures that do, hit your opponent also gain you some life. So now the race goes in your favor yet again. Now it is a tad bit needy because now you're using a combat trick or something that would usually be saved to, save a creature. And you would have to use it to give your creatures lifelink. But in those situations where it does both, where you have some type of giant growth effect that makes one of your guys win in combat and gives them all lifelink, and you kill the guy and you gain a bunch of life, that's obviously the dream scenario. But that's what this card wants to do. I'm not opposed of this card for being a 3/4 for 5. It's probably not something that immediately is going to put me in Jeskai at the draft table, but I mean I'm happy to have it in my deck.
Absolutely, and the way you described it does bring out sort of the martial arts theme of this clan. Like it's keeping your balance while putting the other person off balance. So you'll attack with all these creatures and make them a little bit more hesitant to attack, while at the same time, suring your own footing, which is pretty sweet. The Hillspire Mantis, I guess, is kind of is very similar to our Mantis Writer, I guess, without the Rider. But it's a 4-mana spell. It's just the red and white, so it doesn't cost the blue, and it's a 3/3 flying trample insect.
I mean, those are good stats. A 3/3 flyer for 4, you can't argue with that. The trample, probably not super relevant because it already flies. We like to call that flample in some areas. Flying trample.
Flample.
Yeah, but yeah, usually when things fly, they don't need to trample. But in this case, it will trample over a lot of the 2/2s that are already up there lingering about. But usually, flying creatures that are in 2/2 flyers don't jump in front of other 3/3 flyers. So it's gonna come up, obviously, because there are gonna be situations where people will just have to block. But a 3/3 flyer without trample, I'm already on board. Give it trample. Doesn't matter that much, but I'll take it.
Exactly. We weren't praying for more with this Mantis, but we got it anyway.
Ho 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 ho!
Oh yes. Okay, so Chessgaya Charm is our instant for 3 mana, and you get to choose one. Put target creature on top of its owner's library. You deals 4 damage to target opponent, or creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain lifelink until end of turn.
Yeah, so this is like the perfect Jeskai card, which obviously the charms are trying to be. It's a tempo hit, and not only is it just a bounce spell, but it's actually a card advantage. Well, it's a 1-for-1 where your opponent isn't getting the card and it's going on top of their library instead of back to their hand. 4 damage to the face. That can end games, which is obviously something that can throw off a lot of the race math, especially if you have cards with prowess in play and you do this, before combat damage is dealt. And the pumping your team and giving it lifelink, which also seems to be a theme that Jeskai has going on. All these things help you win the race, which is what you want your cards in a Jeskai deck to do.
Exactly. So when you're playing a Jeskai deck, you need to kind of force a tempo race with your opponent. So you don't want to let them be able to sit there and outlast forever. You want to play cards like this that kind of put them off of their game long enough for you to win.
Yeah, and it seems like Jeskai really takes advantage of the fact that your opponent is going to be putting a face-down creature into play on turn 3, whereas you're just playing regular dudes. But we'll see that more in the future.
Perfect. So Warden of the Eye is our 5-mana 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, return target non-creature, non-land card from your graveyard to your hand. So instant sorcery, enchantments, artifacts, planeswalker. Yeah. That seems pretty good.
Yeah, it's basically just a regrowth for any of your tricks. Obviously, it can also target enchantments. There aren't a lot of enchantments in this set that matter that much, or artifacts or things like that, unless it's like you have a Ascendancy that's in your deck that somehow got destroyed. Woe is you, your Ascendancy got destroyed. Now you have to get it back with this. But when you do, it's going to feel good. As far as 5 mana for 3/3, not stellar. Obviously, your deck needs to already have some cohesion before you look at this and go, "Oh, this is a card that I want to add to my draft pool." You can't really build around this guy, and he doesn't really fit the tempo strategy per se, but it does give you some resiliency and a little bit of late game card advantage.
Yeah. Plus, living the dream. If you get your Sarkhan back, that's pretty sweet too.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing. The greatest tempo card, Sarkhan.
Exactly. Ifrit Weapon Master. It's a 6-mana 4/3 with first strike, which is pretty cool. But when it enters the battlefield or is turned up, so I think that's the first morph card we've seen where it's entered the battlefield or is turned up. Another target creature you control gets +3/+0 until end of turn.
Yeah, this is a nice one. It's nice that it has first strike, so if this guy does get into the morph versus morph combat, it's probably going to win because it's going to be a 4-power first strike. But it also can contribute to a different morph or a different creature winning in combat because, +3. Well, not exactly winning, but at least trading up in combat. Or it can just be a extra 3 damage to the face if you're in in that type of race situation where you maybe you gave your guys lifelink and you need to gain 6 or 7 life in order to stay alive for another turn while your flyers are getting in there. So it's got some uses. I'm actually a fan of this guy not being morphed and played face up because there's a lot of other things you want to be doing with your mana with a Jeskai deck. So this is a nice 6 mana pump a guy, get in there for a little more damage, leave back a 4/3 first striker on the ground to soak up some damage or even just hold off an attack.
Yeah, this works great with your Flample card.
Yes, it does work very good with Flample.
So the Pearl Lake Ancient is a card that's just trying way too hard to be a Leviathan, I think. It's our 6/7 for 7, a 2 blue and 5. It's got Flash, which is sweet. It can't be countered, which is sweet. It's got Prowess, which is pretty cool. And if you return 3 lands that you control to their owner's hand, you return it to your hand as well. So it's got that kind of, hey, removal spell. It just removed 3 lands instead. Aha! But, I mean, even with all these things combined, is this really a card that you want to be playing?
Well, it's not a bad card. It looks a little bit clunky, but the fact that it's a 6/7 in a format where removal isn't really that good, it's going to win combat against a lot of other cards. There aren't a lot of other 6/7s in this format. There's a morph that's a 6/7 that I think it costs 7 to flip up. I mean, this also has Flash, which doesn't really make it that tricky. The fact that it can't be countered is actually a little bit relevant because there are some pretty good counter spells in this format that people will play. They will play multiple copies of, and they would be able to counter a spell like this if it didn't have that line of text. But other than that, it's just a big dork. The fact that it has prowess is not really that relevant. It does get it big enough to probably win in combat with just about everything. I wouldn't not play it. You're going to get to 7 mana usually in a game. It isn't of all of the prowess cards, this is probably the least Jeskai of them. I've had this in like a Sultai deck and been happy. In a teamer deck, it'll probably be pretty good. It's not a very tempo-y card, and I don't see it. I mean, it's a very good card in limited. I don't see it really being that useful in constructed whatsoever. But it's not as clunky as it seems. You're not going to be returning it to your hand all that often.
You say it's not going to make a splash in Standard?
I don't think it will make a splash in Standard.
I can't get enough puns, man. I can't get enough.
Maybe just a drop. Maybe a trickle. Trickle. I don't know.
Like a pearl falling into the water. So anyway, 1,000 Winds is actually really sweet. It's a 5/6 for 6 mana, 4 and 2 blue. It's got flying. It's got morph for 7, and when it is turned face up, return all other tapped creatures to their owner's hands.
Yeah, this one's pretty bomby.
So holy power! Like this almost feels like it should have been the mythic.
Yeah, it's very good. It's also one of those morphs that you're really afraid to play as your first morph, even if that's your only play to do, because usually the first morph is gonna either run into some type of removal spell, or there's this expectation that it will get in combat with something else, and if that never happens, it's kind of a clue that it's really good. But that said, if you don't morph it, you're still getting a Mahamoti Jin? That's what I think has the same stats as Mahamoti Jin.
Yeah.
So a 5/6 flyer for 6, that's pretty damn good. Obviously, you want to be able to use it to set up a one-sided upheaval for your opponent's creatures, but you don't always get that. Sometimes you just have to bite the bullet, bounce one thing, and have a 5/6 for your troubles.
Yeah, exactly. So, sometimes you just have to play a 5/6 flyer, Darn. That's really sweet. You definitely, this is a pack one, pick one dude you want to have every time.
Oh yeah, I definitely pick them every time.
Dragon's Eye Savants is one that I argue about with my friends constantly because I love it and they think that it's stupid. But anyway, it's a 0/6 for 1 in a blue. It's got Morph, and it's one of the reveal cards. So you can reveal a blue card in your hand, and if you do, and it turns face up, you look at target opponent's hand. So let me explain my point of view on this card. In my mind, you're holding up your cancel, and they cast a spell. You reveal the cancel in your hand, look at their hand. Oh, they don't have anything better to counter. Boom, you counter the spell they're casting. If not, I mean, it deters them from playing their best card.
Well, I feel like if you're playing this guy as a 3-mana telepathy, it's probably not that awesome. I think you play this card if you're going to get something out of the deal of it being a 0/6. So it's in constructed. That seems pretty hard to do. It's hard to get a wall that actually it's not a wall, but to get a 0/6 that mostly all it's going to be able to do is block to be a relevant card. In limited, this guy does block a lot of things. Yeah, it's gonna win. Well, it's gonna not lose to battle to just about every morph on turn 5, maybe even turn 6 is still gonna stay alive. And it does have the upside of if it's in a point of the game where you need something that can attack and block and deal damage to something, you can play it as a face down. But I think the best thing you can get out of this deal is if it's face down and then your opponent deals 3 damage to it with a spell, and then you're like, haha, I'll flip my guy up and you didn't kill it. But now you have a 0/6 that, it's sitting there waiting for some other type of, enhancement so that it can either attack or it's just going to sit there and play defense. I don't think it's a super good card, but it has morph, so that makes it playable. I don't know how much getting the information of your opponent's hand is. I guess in the beginnings of the game, it can be okay because you can see what morphs they have, and that gives you a good idea of what morphs they end up playing, later in the game. But it's easy enough to figure those things out without having looked at their hand.
Absolutely. And I feel like this one doesn't feel like it fits that well into an actual Jeskai deck. Maybe it's more of a Sultai card, just kind of buying you time to play your bigger spells, whereas Jeskai wants you to be playing more tempo. So
yeah, there are a couple of cards in Sultai that are toughness matters. Maybe this is something that you can throw in a deck like that. But normally, there are better walls. If you want something that can block very well, there are better things that do it. They do it a little bit better, and they also have other abilities.
Cool. Let's talk about Jeskai Elder. So it's a 1/2 for 1 in a blue. It's got prowess. So every time you cast a non-creature spell, it gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. When it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So if this card said draw a card, would it be good enough to play in Standard?
If this card said draw a card, no, it's still too fragile. Even after one prowess trigger, it's still gonna die to just about every damage-based removal spell that's out there. 2 mana for 1/2, you're not getting anything for your trouble. Even in limited, I'm not a big fan of it. It looks like it's in a good spot. It looks like you have a 1/2, it could become a 2/3, which makes it win in battle with morphs. But chances are, if you're playing this guy and you're attacking to the morph, you probably don't have a trick that you really want to use just to trade, or just to trade for their morph. This guy wants you to have a lot of non-creature spells in your deck, and you're not really getting anything out of it. If it said draw a card and limit it, it might be okay because at least you're getting that card back that you're using as a trick. But all you're really getting out of it is a loot and a threat that it might become a 2/3. If I were being attacked by a Jeskai Elder, I'd just take one and be happy with it.
Fair enough. Misfire Weaver is a 3/1 flying for 4. It's got a morph for 3, and when it's turned face up, target creature you control gains hexproof until end of turn. So it is a way kind of to dodge a removal spell, I guess.
Yeah, this guy is actually like a combat trick of sorts, or a counter spell to any of the removal spells out there. And a lot of the removal spells cost a lot more than this morph cost, so you're winning on the mana spent side of the equation. And that said, it's also a 3/1 flyer, a 3-power flyer for 4 mana. So you can even just play this guy face up and attack for 3 in the following turns. Obviously, I don't know that you always play this face down every time. I think it has morph, so if you need to play it face down, you can. I would just as easily, like on turn 4, just play this as a 3/1 flyer and try to start my tempo train.
Exactly. I think in game 1 against an opponent, this is pretty much better as just a 3/1 flyer for 4. In the subsequent games, after sideboarding and a little bit of information from the deck, the morph ability becomes more powerful than in game 1. Just knowing the types of removal spells you're playing around. But I think you're right. I think just as a 3/1 for 4, it's just good enough. So let's sit quietly and think about this card. It's an enchantment for 2 and a blue. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may pay 1. If you do, tap target creature an opponent controls, and it doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. So this seems pretty good to me.
Yeah, this card says build around me, so
indeed. At this point in the recording, Rashad's audio actually cut out. In the recording, I don't know if it's a glitch with my software or something, but luckily there's only a couple of cards left, and they're not super interesting, so I apologize that Rashad isn't here for the last part of it. But yeah, let's just go over Quiet Contemplation super quick. I think it's a fine enchantment for Jeskai deck. I think the fact that it doesn't untap during its controller's untap step is super essential in this card. I think it's a fine build around me card in Limited. The River Wheel Aerialist is a 4/5 flyer for 6. If you can afford this much tempo in your deck, if you've got enough bounce spells, removal spells, etc., for this to work out for you, a 4/5 flyer is a fine bomb, but I don't think it replaces a rare bomb in the slot. So if you're playing this as your big flying bomb in your deck, you're probably playing a fairly weak 23. The Jeskai Wind Scout is the 2/1 for 3. I've seen this do fine work in drafts and sealed. The fact that it can become a 3/2 flyer is really important for trading with things like Mantis Writer and the other Mantis dude with Flample. I think it's a fine card, and it's the format that's slow enough to support a 2/1 flyer for 3. Mystic of the Hidden Way is a slightly different story. I mean, the fact that he's a morph card is pretty sweet, and the fact that the morph only costs 3 is pretty sweet. So if you hung up on lands or something, and you just have that 3 mana, you can flip them up. And having a creature that is unblockable is quite good in a stalemate situation. So this will be the highest creature on your list for your opponent to remove, if that comes to that. But that said, 3/2 for 5 mana is pretty slow, and you're going to want to spend your morph on something that's a little bit bigger. So this will be lower on your party list. But this is one of those cards that is really good when ahead, even better at parity, but is just awful when you're behind. The Whirlwind Adept is a 4/2 for 5, and even though it's got hexproof and prowess, you're going to need to cast at least 2 spells for it not to trade with any reasonable creature in the set. So I feel like even the fact that it's hexproof isn't going to save it from anything, because it's still not going to be able to get into combat with anything. So let's just call this kind of a fail monk. The Master of Pearls is a pretty interesting one. It's a 2/2 for 2, but you basically never want to play it face up, even on turn 2. You're going to want to morph that and then use it as a combat trick for 3 and 2 whites. When it's turned up, creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn, and that is huge. That's going to win you combat, usually outright, or at least make trades very favorable for you. So you'll be trading up massively with this guy. Very high pick, a pack one, pick one kind of card. Seeker of the Way is one that I've actually seen in some legacy decks, and it's a 2/2 for 2, 1 and a white, and it's got prowess. But in combination with the prowess, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, so whenever you brainstorm, it gets lifelink at the end of turn. So it becomes a 3/3 lifelinker, which is pretty sweet. When we did the original review, neither Rashad or I kind of felt that it was a super important card in the limited environment, but I think if you combine this with a bunch of cheap spells in Legacy, it does become a pretty powerful effect. And it is a warrior, so keep that in mind when you're building your warrior deck in limited. The Jeskai Student is an interesting one. It is a 1/3 for 2, which are good stats for other formats. Like in M15, I would love this card. But even with prowess, I don't feel like it matches up to the kind of the behemoth creatures that are in Khans of Tarkir. You're playing with things that are like randomly 4/5s or 6/3s or like crazy good effects, and this isn't quite on the like a 3/1 would be more appropriate for a Jeskai deck. The fact that it has prowess is okay. It will trade, or sorry, not trade. It will destroy a morphed creature if you have a non-creature spell, but I don't think anyone's really going to be attacking into it with those anyway, so there's not a huge likelihood that it's going to save you. The Sage-Eye Harrier is kind of similar to the Jeskai Student in the way that the stats are backwards from what you'd like. So it's a 1/5 for 5. It's got Morph, which automatically makes it okay, I guess. But I guess having a 1/5 Morph for 4 is alright. There will be times when you want this creature, but for the most part, it doesn't really trade with anything in the air. It will just block things and not destroy them. And that's not really what you want out of your big flying bird warrior. It is a warrior. So, I mean, if you're playing the warrior deck, that's okay. Dragonstyle Twins is an interesting one. So, a 3/3 double strike prowess is crazy. And if you use it in conjunction with any kind of pump spell, any kind of removal spell, the likelihood is that you're going to be pushing through at least 8 damage, which is nuts. So, this is going to be a creature that's rarely blocked and rarely loses in combat. I think this is a very high pick, and I think you should choose it. Pack one, pick one. The Monastery Swift Spear is the one that I kind of raved about on Twitter and Facebook. When it got spoiled, I was like, okay, I've been waiting for the prowess card that's for constructed. And this one is definitely the constructed card. It's the 1 mana cost, 1/2 haste prowess human monk. And I've seen this one in the same legacy deck that Seeker of the Way was in. Basically, you combine this with a bunch of really cheap draw, bounce, control effects, and it just pushes through damage consistently every turn until your opponent is dead. The Bloodfire Expert is not the expert at surviving combat, so it will trade up, I guess, with things with 4 power when you have prowess, but it's never going to straight up survive combat with anything. You need to cast, yeah, again, 2 spells to make it survive combat with a morphed creature. But that said, I mean, 3/1 for 3 is okay. I usually play those anyway because they will trade with your 3/3s and your random 4/3s and things like that. There's actually a 5/3 black creature that it trades with too, so in general it's pretty good, and it will get you extra damage or a trade up. I usually treat cards like this more like removal spells than creatures, but clearly the dude works out. Like, look at that 6-pack. Jeez. The Bloodfire Mentor is an interesting one. It doesn't feel to me that much like a Jeskai card. It feels more like what a Sultai card should be. But basically it's an 0/5 for 3. And you can pay 2 and a blue to loot, which is a fairly good price for looting as far as modern looting goes. But it's not going to be the card that's really winning you the game. Like, it will block against more aggressive decks. So it'll be good against your Mardu deck, I guess. But that said, like, it's not the Jeskai way, man. It's not the Jeskai way. The Jeskai wants to, like, put pressure on your opponent, and this does not that. Yeah, that's really all that's required of that. Leaping Master really got a jump start in this set. Like, it's leaps and bounds above other cards, especially the last couple that we've seen. The 2/1 for 2 is already really good, especially on a red card. But the fact that you can pay 2 and a white to give it flying at the end of turn is just gravy. Like, it's aggressive in the beginning of the game. If you play this on turn 2, you're probably going to be swinging for 2. And then it's going to get you just activation after activation of flying, getting over your opponent. Good at parity, good at the early game, good if you're ahead, kind of bad if you're behind, but at the same time, it's still going to trade with 2/2s and 3/2s and things. So, and it will jump up in front of a couple of the flying creatures in the set. So I think Leaping Master, he gets mad props from me. Mad props. The Jeskai banner, I want to talk about this one specifically because a lot of the other clans have banners. Well, all the other clans have banners, let's be honest. But they have banners that are more effective. Like, Jeskai is not the aggressive deck. Like Mardu is the aggressive deck. Jeskai's the tempo deck. And playing a banner on turn 3 and then later using it to draw a card. Like this is just tempo hit after tempo hit. And I think that Jeskai might be the worst clan to have a banner in your deck for. Mardu might be worse, but I think Jeskai is like right up there. You want to be playing the Abzan banner, like in a deck where you can afford the time. In Jeskai, you can't really afford the time. I think you can afford the time in the slot for Mystic Monastery, though. It's an excellent turn 1 play in Jeskai. But as long as it doesn't interfere with your curve, I think the Monastery is fine. I wouldn't play the banner. The only really bad cards I've seen, like, I don't love Swiftspear in Limited. I don't like Bloodfire Mentor in Limited. Bloodfire Expert's okay. But for the most part, you want to be getting like Dragonstyle Twins is great. I think getting Seeker of the Way is fine. Master of Pearls is amazing. Mystic of the Hidden Way and the Scout are both fine. But yeah, that's Jeskai. Apologize we couldn't get Rashad for the rest of it. He did cut out technical difficulties. Time to reformat again. But thank you very much. And the next set review will I'll have Sam of TheMagicManSam helping me out. So make sure to tune in tomorrow and get the MagicManSam experience in the set review. Bye bye.